From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LA Late.
And wow, what a big night it is as the CPI, the Consumer Price Index number for the month of December, is released. And inflation went up. Well, the latest details across the board: inflation, rentflation, and lobsterflation maybe as well. But stimulation as well tonight. I just made that up. More stimulus checks coming to millions of Americans. It's the 2023 stimulus checks passed law. And I'm going to go over these incredible 2023 stimulus checks in tonight's broadcast. A to C, E to K, L to Q, stimulus check R. We have stimulus checks for you, SSI, stimulus checks for you, SSDI, stimulus checks for you, SSA, railroad benefits, veterans benefits. They're law. Viewers have already gotten them. I'm going to show you how to get them as well. If you've gotten some checks, I'm going to go over how to get more checks. Then we also have stimulus check R for my small business owners. $26,000 per employee. If you have 10 employees, it's $250,000. If you have 20 employees, it's $500,000. Eat up tonight's broadcast. We have unemployment stimulus, which is critical because Americans are getting laid off. Amazon, Salesforce, even Goldman Sachs, with 30,000 employees gone in less than a week, while the latest details on that unemployment stimulus. And then more checks for those young children that were stayed home during COVID. Yes, 2023 is the year for stimulus. Why? Because over $500 million of stimulus for 2023 was passed in 2020, 2021, and 2022 and still law. And in tonight's broadcast, we'll go over this massive amount of money. It's stimulus for 2023 that was passed over the last 3 years and still law, and you may never heard of it. But the big news tonight is this. This was the CPI estimate going into today's broadcast, and this is the CPI that was released today. Consumer Price Index number for the month of December showed that inflation went up 6.5% year to date. Still went up month to month. We'll go over the latest details on the numbers and where was the drops and where were the rises. Everything you need to know from stimulus and more heats up tonight's broadcast. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, it's America's most watched show in prime time. I'm excited you're here for this live broadcast from the shores of Santa Monica, California. Let's get to the breaking news. It all starts right here from the shores of Santa Monica, California to the shores of the East Coast. Let's get to the breaking news, all on this big night of Evenings LA as the CPI is released and Americans are pouncing and getting more stimulus. The breaking news starts all right now. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me in this live broadcast from the shores of Santa Monica, California. It's LA Late Live every night at 5 o'clock Pacific's time, new into its brand new time slot. It's the talk of the town. Last night was the most watched show on this channel of the entire year. It's LA Late Live every night at 5 o'clock. And then you can watch this on replay on evenings shortly thereafter at about 5:30. Big news, as 2023 is a lot of stimulus checks. And there's a lot of them. We're going to go over these 18 months of stimulus checks, 5 checks per month, $3,000 a month. And these 2023 stimulus checks are the combination of 3 years of laws passed, 2020, 2021, and 2022. 2023 stimulus is 3 years of stimulus passed and over $500,000 still sitting around. We have a lot of checks to go over this broadcast, and we got checks for nearly everyone. I have checks for business owners. I have checks for unemployed people. And I have checks for you, SSI, you, SSDI, you, SSA, low income, anyone who makes less than $75,000. Over this broadcast, I'm going to show you how to get as much money as possible. And without a delay, let's go into those first 3 checks, A, B, and C. Then we'll go to E to K, and then we'll go to L to Q, and then we'll go over to stimulus check R, then up to unemployment as well. First, we're going to start with the 2023 stimulus checks A to C. These were passed by Joe Biden in 2022, still law. And they're huge. And how much have viewers gotten for these checks A through C? Viewers who are on SSI and SSDI have gotten over 100,000. Anyone who makes less than 75,000, this is for you. Off of that last year's earnings. If you made less than 75,000 last year, that's for you. If you made less than 150,000 as a married couple last year, this is for you. So let's go over these first 3 checks, A, B, and C. 18 months, $3,000 a month, 5 checks a month is the average across the board. Let's look at those beautiful breaking news checks tonight, and let's see where they happen and what you need to know about these great checks. They are delivering big success stories, and here's one of them. Frank Mancuso got 18 months of incredible checks and a lot of months of checks across the board. It's fast stimulus. How do you get these incredible checks? You go around this video, become a member, and get ready for that membership newsletter. I'm going to go over where the checks came from. Then I'll go over each of the individual checks, and I'll go over then how you get the checks in this broadcast. You ready? I'm so ready. Let's get to the details right now. So the first 3 checks came from Joe Biden, and they came in 2022. Pass for you. Viewers have been getting them for over a year on this channel. You haven't got to them? I'm going to show you how to get them right now. These are stimulus checks A to C, over $100,000 in these first 3 checks. And you qualify if you made less than $75,000 last year. These are stimulus checks A through C. It's federal stimulus, meaning it's from the federal government, the people in D.C. Then came Congress, and they passed the wonderful stimulus checks E through K, bringing us to then hundreds of checks for the Purple Power community, the community of this family. Have you subscribed yet? Have you become a member? Get ready. And then I found you more checks, E through K. More checks, L, M, N, O, and P, and Q. And let's now first go into those first 3 checks, A, B, and C. We're going to go over each of these checks one at a time, A, B, C. And then right before I get to E to K, I'm going to go over more about that membership newsletter. Then we'll go to the E to K stimulus checks. Then we'll go to the L to Q. Then we're going to go to the stimulus check R. Then we'll go to unemployment stimulus checks. Then PEB stimulus checks. And then the big second half, we're going to go to the breaking news with CPI. But here's what happened with that CPI today. Give you a preview what's happened in the big second half. CPI came in as expected, higher year to date, 6.5% year to date. And the month to month, it went up across the board. That was the estimate, and the actual was exactly the same. We'll go over all the breaking details of that CPI in the big second half. Now, let's start with those great checks, A, B, and C. These are 2023 stimulus checks, passed over the last 3 years, over $500 million still sitting around. And let's look at those beautiful checks right now. Stimulus check A is a gorgeous, wonderful $6,500 to $12,000 stimulus check. Wow, that is just really wonderful. And how do you get this wonderful stimulus check? Step 1, you go into the video, become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calstino, VIP. Then go down to stimulus check A in the membership newsletter. I'll show you how to do this in just a second. And when you see stimulus check A, then you pounce. Get that incredible stimulus check A, and again, it's $6,500 to $12,000. Then you want to go to stimulus check B in the newsletter, which is paying people a lot of money. Of all the incredible checks, you all know that I think B is the one that helps you the best in a recession. Because stimulus check B is paying on average 18 months of beautiful stimulus checks. It's going to be a 24-month recession I predicted last year, and we'll find out definitively next month. You need 18 months of stimulus checks with a 24-month recession, and that's what stimulus check B does. Let's make this very clear early in this broadcast. This is not a 3-month lockdown because of COVID in 2020. This is a 2-year recession. $600 measly checks from 2020 are not going to work in a 2-year recession. That is not a 2-month lockdown because of COVID. It's a 2-year recession. You need tens of thousands of dollars. 18 months, $3,000 a month, 5 checks per month on average is what viewers are getting. It's fast stimulus, over 300,000 featured in this broadcast. We're going to go over all these incredible checks. Again, stimulus check B is the one that I really like a lot. And we have Frank Mancuso, who became a member of this channel, and in less than 30 days from then, he got those incredible checks for stimulus check B. Then you want to start doing stimulus check C, which is for rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and more. And stimulus check C is the residue of 2020 stimulus. Then it got bigger in 2021 stimulus. And it's still around in 2023. In the membership newsletter, I tell the Purple Hawks you where to go, what to say, and how to say it. 12 different places. So make sure you reach out to all 12 places. This is for rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance, and more. And let's look at the beautiful monies for that beautiful check C that members of this channel are getting, and that you should get as well. Do you want $30,000 of rent? Of course you do. And that is what Nisi all the way up to Elizabeth gotten for rent. And viewers are doing this all the time. Go on this video, become a member to LALATE. Then get that membership newsletter. Go down to stimulus check C. 12 places to reach you out to. And I'll tell you who to call, what to say, and how to say it. Then we go to utilities. This was the number a few months ago. Now it's grown to 15,000. Viewers are doing better every single day on this channel because they're listening and learning, and you're doing such a great job. And then combinations of checks. Well, Mark was at $32,000 of combinations of checks, like utilities and rent. What did he do? Well, I told Mark to go get more money. He went from $32,000 to this graphic, $50,000, then $100,000, then he got stimulus check B, $66,000, $166,000. Let's go back to Nisi. She was at $32,000, $23,000. She went to $50,000. And get ready for Lorraine. She has gotten these beautiful 2023 stimulus checks and brought it from $105,000 to $150,000. Dragon, who's a triple member to all three channels, she is holding $170,000 of these beautiful 2023 stimulus checks. So far we have only done the first three checks. Stimulus checks A, B, and C. Remember, 2023 is the best year for stimulus because it's the residue, the leftover of all these incredible stimulus checks over these last 3 years. These incredible stimulus checks keep on growing left and right. And let's go over these beautiful stimulus checks one at a time as we continue into E to K. But before we do, let's go over that membership newsletter. So you're watching this video. You want those stimulus checks. You understand we're going to E to K, then L to Q in this broadcast. Maybe you want stimulus check R. Maybe you want unemployment stimulus. Maybe you want PBT stimulus checks. How do I do this, LA? Step one, you go under this video, you subscribe. Subscribe to LA, America's most watched show for financial news in prime time, with the #1 most watched coverage for this subject matter in America. #3 overall for all financial news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Join this channel and go then under the video, and you will see this website, news.la.com/newsletter. It's in the description of the video. It's in the pinned comment. It's also at the top of the chat. It's where the newsletter is. Click the link and go right in and use the password for the most recent post on this channel. Now let's go over a couple things about this starting right now. It's important to understand where this economy is at any moment. Why? Because you gauge your movements on stimulus, on savings, on debt, according to where the economy is going. And last year, I was the first American broadcaster to record the U.S. economy is going into recession for 2 years. As soon as I made that recording in February of 2022, viewers of this channel, the Purple Hawk, said, if you're right, LA, then find me some darn stimulus checks right away. Lucky they did that in March of 2022 because that day, Joe Biden passed the first 2 executive orders for stimulus checks A and B. That night I made that broadcast. That next day, viewers already sent me private messages. I got them. Thank you, LA. I had a triple focus at the time, and I saw the same triple focus tonight. #1, I want you to get big checks, not $600 puny, embarrassing checks. Tens of thousands of dollars of stimulus because it's going to be a 2-year recession. A 2-year recession is not a 6-month lockdown because of COVID. A 2-year recession needs lots of money. Financial cliff and financial problems in a 2-year recession. We found it. These stimulus checks are paying viewers massive sums of money, and these are for you as well. #2, I wanted broad eligibility. I want to make sure that you qualify for it. And tonight's broadcast, I literally have stimulus checks for everyone, practically. Stimulus checks for anyone who makes less than $75,000. People who rent or own, ahead on bills, behind on bills. They're stimulus checks from the American government. Federal stimulus has nothing to do with your state. You don't like your governor? I don't like him either. They're not from him. They're from the federal government. Next, I wanted broad eligibility, and I also want ease of being able to get it. And that's why I put stuff together like no one else does. Over the last 2 years, we have had a newsletter on this channel. A newsletter, so I put all the links, all the places to click, and go right and get these incredible stimulus checks. In the case of C, you're making the phone calls. And I put it all together for you. So you don't have to do any research. You don't have to do any work. All you have to do is push, and start applying and grabbing these incredible stimulus checks. But I wanted to do even better. I wanted to do it even better. And December 23rd, 2022 was my Christmas gift for you last year when I thought, we can't do it better. How about we do it in a way in which you watch the video, you become a member while watching the video, and then you go right into the membership newsletter while watching the video and start applying for checks. That would be incredible. It's not will be incredible. It is incredible. It's been live since December 23rd, 2022. It's the second home to the newsletter. Now all you have to do is go around this video, become a member to LATE 1, LATE 2, or LATE 3. Then at the top of the chat, pin comment or description of this video is the website. It's at news.lalate.com/newsletter. You go right in, and then you go to A, B, and C, and continue, because we're continuing to E to K in just a second, and start getting stimulus. The password for the membership-only newsletter is in the most recent post for members on the channel that you became a member for. Boy, it is absolutely incredible. And that's why membership is absolutely through the roof, because this is the only channel that does this. This is the major broadcast, and tonight we're going to continue with these huge checks one at a time. Next up is the checks from Congress, and these beautiful checks are E to K. Let's look at those beautiful stimulus checks E to K right now. And here we go. So after the checks from the president, A to C, Congress came along and passed other checks. And those are E to K. And let's look at those beautiful checks, again, all in the membership newsletter, same eligibility as A to C. Stimulus check E is a beautiful $7,500 stimulus check. Love it. Stimulus check F is a gorgeous $4,000 stimulus check. Wow. And then stimulus check G is a beautiful 30% off. Stimulus check H, $2,000. Wow. Stimulus check I and J, $8,000 stimulus checks. Love them. And then stimulus check K, $14,000. Incredible. So those are your 2023 stimulus checks from Congress. Let's pause for a second. Something new right there I want to go over. When I say your 2023 stimulus checks from Congress, I presume this was sort of obvious, but I just want to make sure. When a law is passed as a law, it stays as a law. It gets funded as a law until the funding runs out. So you could pass a law, let's say in, 1920, and has funding for 30 years. In the case of 2020 stimulus, the funding is still around. 2021, its funding is still around. 2022 is just a blink of an eye ago. It's still around. So some people think that 2023 stimulus checks only have to be passed in the year in which we're talking about them. No, they could be passed December 31st, 2022. They could be passed December 31st, 2019, and still could have funding for you. So that's what's fundamental to understand about 2023 stimulus checks. Over $500 million of stimulus is still available for you, and that's what we're covering tonight. And I've been saying that for a while on this channel, and now other people are repeating it on other channels. I love that the messaging is getting through across the board from both you and other people listen to me, apparently. So let's go over then to the continuation of these beautiful stimulus checks, and let's go to E to K. These are the beautiful stimulus checks from Congress. And again, for Congress to send you a 2023 stimulus check, they don't have to do it in 2023. They can do it in 2022. They can do it in 2021. And you know that because the 2022 stimulus checks were passed in 2021. They're not even passed in 2022. And the 2021 stimulus checks were passed in 2020. I think this is sort of obvious, but I'm just making this point tonight as well. Stimulus check E is a $7,500 stimulus check. Wow. Stimulus check F is a $4,000 stimulus check. I love that. Stimulus check G, 30% off. Stimulus check H, $2,000. Stimulus check I and J, both $8,000. That is huge. Stimulus check J is a whopping $14,000. And these have the same eligibility as all the other stimulus checks we've gone over so far. They are for you if you made less than $75,000 last year. That's all you need to know. These are the beautiful 2023 stimulus checks across the board. They are all in the membership newsletter. Now, it shows you my dedication to you to make sure that you get as much money as possible because I'm always looking for more checks. And that brings us to stimulus checks L to Q. Same eligibility. Let's look at the stimulus checks L to Q. And what are they? Well, L to Q are beautiful. L is $100,000 on average of the loan industry money. M is a $4,000 stimulus check. N, brand new computer, tablet, laptop. Congratulations to Lynn Glenn. Congratulations to John Malouf. Congratulations to Spelling. Have gotten this beautiful brand new computer, tablet, laptop, or free internet. Stimulus check O, 0 down payment, 0 closing costs, and a brand new mortgage. And then stimulus P and Q. P is a beautiful 3% refi, and Q is an $8,000 stimulus check. So there you go. Those are the first group. They're all very similar stimulus checks A to Q in tonight's broadcast. Again, same eligibility for all of you. Same way you do it. You go on this video, become a member, go write in that membership newsletter. You don't even have to write it down. I do all this for you. That's how much I care about you. It's at the top of the chat, the pinned comment, and the description of the video. You just go right in, grab the password from the most recent posts on your member channel, and put it right into that password-protected newsletter, and you're ready to rock and roll. That is A through Q, but of course we're not done there yet. Unemployment stimulus checks are PBT stimulus checks. Let's go over those details right now. So stimulus check are and unemployment and PBT are absolutely huge. Let's go over the unemployment stimulus starting right now. Unemployment stimulus is critical because millions of Americans are getting laid off. In the last 7 days alone, I featured 30,000 layoffs in several companies, including Amazon, 2 locations, and then Salesforce, and then Goldman Sachs. And warnings coming in from McDonald's and also potentially other companies as well. So more Americans are getting laid off. Let's go over how to get that unemployment stimulus starting right now. 2 steps with several questions in each of the steps. I was the original broadcaster to cover unemployment stimulus in 2020. And it's a very unnatural process applying for unemployment because most people have never done it. Most people don't even know about it. And most people don't even know it's a lot of money. In some cases, over tens of thousands of dollars. Step 1. In step 1, you're going to file the claim if you are a fired W-2 employee. Fired W-2 employee, let's assume the following facts in the storyline. First, you were employed in September, but fired October 1st. Then, you, by the grace of God, find another job in January 2023. Good. And remain employed to this very day. Still remain employed. But you did not know about your ability to get unemployment in October, November, December, when you were very much unemployed for everything. And you found this recording months later in the middle of 2023. Can you still get unemployment for the weeks of October, November, and December when you were completely fired and unemployed from that first job? Absolutely. Can you do it now, even though you've gone on with the rest of your life? Absolutely. That's the law. So let's go over the 2 steps of it. Step 1, you go to your state's Department of Unemployment and file the claim. I like the websites, so prefer you to use the websites with a computer, tablet, or cell phone because they're very well designed. Step 1, they're going to ask you 3 questions. What date were you fired? In this example, it's October 1st, so make sure you say October 1st. Don't use today's date because that'll cost you weeks and lots of checks. Then it'll ask you 2 other questions. Willing to work? That's a mental question. Able to work? That's a physical question. Done. Claim is approved. Easy. Breezy. Last night, we were back outside on air, live on air for our outside live show, which we're trying to do every night at about 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We'll see if we do it again tonight. It airs before this brand new live edition of Evenings LA, which airs at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Actually, I should say LALATE Live, which airs at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Let's say that all together again, because that's a lot of shows in just one breath. Evenings LA, which normally airs at 5, has been moved back to 5:30. Why? Because yesterday we tried LALATE Live a little bit early in the 5 o'clock time slot, and it really worked. So currently we're trying to do the following workup. We're trying to do a live outside show every day at 4 o'clock, then the live studio show, LALATE Live, at 5 o'clock, and then Evenings LA, 30 minutes later than when it usually would air at about 5:30. And boy, that LA Live studio show last night was the most watched show of this channel in a very long time. Most watched of the year, most watched of that time slot, and perhaps most watched in a very long time. So if you're watching that show right tonight, welcome back. Now let's go back into the importance of this unemployment. So once the claim is approved, you have to certify for weekly benefits. And last night I was outside, I remembered that this was something that King Reno talked about in 2020. He had his claim approved, but he did not have any checks. Why? Because you got to ask for checks each week that you were unemployed. So you're going to do all the month of October, this example, all the month of November, and all the month of December. You got employed in January, so you're going to stop. You're not going to ask for there. Done. And this is tens of thousands of dollars. Now, 2023 is absolutely a great year for stimulus. Why? Because the combination of 2020, 2021, and 2022 stimulus, number 1. And number 2, we got all the stimulus on the channel that we ever wanted all at the same time from different times and walks of life. We have unemployment stimulus, children's stimulus, beneficiary stimulus like SSI and veterans, and yes, business grant stimulus. Stimulus R heats up tonight's broadcast, and boy, this is a big one. This brings us back to the original days of EIDL grant, EIDL loan, PPP. I wish I could send the bat signal up in the sky for all those original viewers and say, come on back, because they may never have heard about this. Let's go with this beautiful stimulus check R right now, because it's an insane amount of money for businesses. These 2023 stimulus checks for businesses are just really insane. How much money? It's $26,000 per employee. And if you have 20 employees at issue, it's $500,000 of stimulus. I'm trying to think in my background, have I ever covered anything that pays any individual $500,000? I don't think I ever have. And it doesn't stop at $500,000. I'm just using that as an example. I can go even higher. So what is this? This is stimulus check R for small business owners. This is for 2023. It really only got a workup just a few months ago in 2022, but it's really kicking in for 2023. It's the employee retention tax credit in the membership newsletter. Reach out to a tax preparer for this information and how much does it work and how much does it pay. Let's go over the details of that right now. The concept again is bringing us back to stimulus over many different years. It works the following way. The federal government will now, in 2023, pay you $26,000 per employee that you had on staff in 2019 and kept on staff throughout 2020 and 3/4 of 2021. My goodness. The concept is very simple. If you had one employee in 2019, the pandemic hit in 2020, you kept them on staff, you're going to get paid. If you kept them on staff for 3/4 of 2021, you're going to get even paid even more. The total of that is $26,000 per one employee. If you had 10 employees, you're going to get $250,000, $260,000. If you had 20 employees, you're going to get paid $500,000 of stimulus. And I think to myself, I just have to laugh. I have to laugh. I think to myself when people say, there's no 2023 stimulus. And then someone's like literally waving $500,000 of checks in their face. The visual is just right there. Isn't that visual right there for you? You know, I haven't heard about it. Well, I haven't heard about the stimulus check R until about a week ago either. It's not the job of Congress or the President of the United States or legislators to tell you about what they do. It's your job to find out about it. And that's why this channel launched in spring of 2020 to cover EIDL grant and EIDL loan, PPP, which people had never heard of. Have you never heard of it tonight? Maybe you didn't hear about it then. You have never heard of it since I just mentioned it. Have you ever started about the employee retention tax credit? Probably not. And tonight you're learning about it. And you may be a small business owner and you're saying, get the accountant on the phone right away. Get the accountant on the phone right away. Because this is an insane amount of money. $260,000 for 10 employees. And if it's 20, it's $500,000. How did we miss this? How did I never hear about it? And that is what's going on with 2023. It's the combination of 2020, 2021, and 2022 stimulus. It's not passed in 2023. It's passed in prior years. And in the case of the stimulus check R, which we just went over, it was not really passed in 2020. It got an indication in 2021, but it really got the clarity in 2022 from Treasury. So it's that recent for what you did 3 years ago? Yep. That's the way it works. And again, this is so exciting. It's such great news. I'm so excited for you because it's bringing us back to the original days of this channel. The original days of this channel were you had to learn to earn. You had to find out to learn out, to get paid out. Oh, I like that. You had to find out to get paid out. I love that. That's brand new tonight. Just happened. You had to really pounce to ounce. You had to read to bleed dollar bills. Absolutely. And that is why it's happening tonight. Now, PBD stimulus checks are also coming to millions of Americans, and that standalone show is going to come in just a few more days. And it is, again, payment for families who had children who got free meals or discounted meals during the pandemic normally, but during the pandemic had to stay home. But normally they would get them in the schools, but during the pandemic they had to stay home, and so states are sending out those incredible checks across the board. Wow! So in the big second half comes that news, the news you've been waiting for, the news which made the month and potentially the entire year. It is the December CPI. The December CPI, which gauges inflation, was released, and this was the estimate, and this was the actual. Does it look similar? They're nearly identical. Came in right on the money. Then we'll be looking at the breakdown of the individual numbers, and then we'll be looking at the reaction of the market and also the reaction of the Federal Reserve governors. Have you become a member? Get ready, because we have a big show tonight, and we're going to go over more about what those Fed governors have said and have not said in advance of this news and thereafter. The breaking news in this market and what's going on heats up the big second half. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as more continues on this primetime show of the latest CPI for the month of December 2022. Oh boy, what a big night it is. And I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as this and more heats up. Prime time. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE Live Daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now in the big second half on the shores of Santa Monica, California, as the markets reacted to the news, and certainly the Federal Reserve and myself. We'll go over the latest details of what the market saw today and what we have coming up the rest of this week. Wow. Fed governors spoke yesterday in advance of the CPI announcement today, and they also spoke after the CPI was released. This was the estimate, and this was the actual. We'll go over the core CPI elements as well. What were those individual numbers saying across the board? And boy, it is a big night and a big exciting details across the board. I'm excited you're here, and let's go into that CPI breaking news tonight. The CPI estimate looks exactly like the CPI actual, and that CPI estimate is just wow. CPI estimate for the month of December 2022 was released on air, mornings on air, live on this channel, and the estimate was that it was going to go up 6.5% year to date compared to the month of December in 2021. What did it do? It did exactly that. And then the core CPI was supposed to go up 5.7%. It did that as well, year to date, YTD. What about month to date? It was expected to go up 0.1%, and it did that exactly. And then the core month to date was supposed to go up 0.2%. It went up 0.3%, so a little bit different there. Virtually every number on the screen, how many numbers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we have 4 numbers. Of the 4 numbers, 3 of them came exactly as expected. Now, let's go into the latest details on the markets and what they saw in the components of the CPI today. The components of the CPI today were huge, and boy, look at that. These are month-to-month data that were released in that CPI report today, and it just doesn't surprise anyone. Food on a monthly went up 0.3%. Energy dropped 4.5%. New vehicles dropped 0.1%. Used cars fell 2.5%. Apparel rose 0.5%. Shelter went up 0.8%. And then we went into medical, and medical fell as well. It just continues to be much the same narrative. No surprises across the board. And what's important to understand is when you're looking at this data, the data is coming exactly as viewers of this channel have been predicting across the board. So let's go into what we expect for next month across the board and why the situation is not getting any particularly different. Where do you believe that core CPI will be next month? I believe it's a little bit lower, and I believe the headline inflation will be a little bit lower. Why? Because gasoline is lower in the month of January than it was in the month of December. And then the month-to-date number will be potentially a flat number. Potentially will not be a plus 1%, maybe a 0, may even be a slight negative number across the board. Let's go into those component parts across the board, and wow, I mean, this is where it gets interesting. So food went up 0.3%, and that's in the month of December. Will that likely go up more in the month of January? Yes, of course, absolutely. We've talked about this extensively on this channel. Food is still going up in the month of January, so this component will go up. Energy is down 4.5% in this latest CPI report. Is that continuing this month as well? Yeah, I believe it is certainly lower. The international price of Brent crude has dropped. Now, AAA National Average in that membership newsletter nightly is actually going up. I don't know why, but the AAA National Average is going up while the international price of Brent crude is dropping across the board. Used cars are falling 2.5%. New car vehicles are down 1%. Will that drop more in January? Absolutely. So what about apparel? This is interesting. So do we think apparel is going to drop in January? I think it will. It went up in December. You would presume they would try to get you to buy the items during the Black Friday sales of December, the Christmas sales, the holiday sales, but they didn't. They rose the price of clothing in the month of December to still get you, even though it was the holiday season. January is when they try to liquidate the items, so maybe they're going to drop the prices. I think that makes sense. And then we turn to shelter. How many months have we had shelter up 1%? There it is, another 0.8% across the board. Shelter will continue to fall eventually, but not yet. A new report released today says that shelter is delayed in that CPI because it doesn't reflect instantly, that it's a delayed number, and shelter is 30% of this number. So if rent is delayed and a drop in rent will not appear in the CPI instantly, then this number could fall substantially if rent is falling substantially. But here's part of the equation. We don't see any indication yet that rent is falling. So the fact that rent is still up another 1%, every month rent is up 1%, 0.8, 0.9, 1.1, 0.7. It's always the same percentage point. Until this rent falls, no change across the board. What would cause the rent to fall? Vacancy. And apparently there's currently no vacancies because no one can afford to own. So I do believe a big problem of inflation in the U.S. economy is rent. And until this rent falls, then we could basically have the same equation next month as well. Now, here's what's interesting. The price of gasoline is falling in January even more than December. And the new car vehicles falling as well because less people can buy them, afford them on a loan. Same thing with used cars. So that may offset the rent. And the apparel should fall in January. So we're trying to find things that would offset the culprit behind inflation, which clearly is the rent. The rent is clearly one of the problems of this equation. Until we solve that part of the equation, then we'll see this CPI continue to grow across the board. The market rallied on the news today. You're surprised? Of course you're not surprised. The markets always rally on the release of anything inflation or the Federal Reserve and then crash the next day. Why? We talked about this yesterday. We call it the bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge or selling the bridge. This happens all the time. Why? Because they take the news and they tear it apart and they take one part of it out of context and then run up the story. And that is why it's so important to stay on point with what's going on. And what's going on tonight? Well, there's some Fed governors speaking about the situation. Did anyone say they're going to stop raising rates? No, of course not. Stock traders tried to sell you the bridge today. Oh, we're going to stop raising rates. No one said that. In fact, the Federal Reserve said much the opposite before the release of the report today and after the release of the report today. But did we get anything new since yesterday? Oh, we did, absolutely. The Philadelphia Fed president minutes ago, before going on air, Hawker, if I'm saying it right, said we should be doing 25 basis point in the next meeting. Whoa. So we have been doing 75 basis point increases in the Federal Reserve for a while. Then we went to 50 just recently. And it looked very much in the cards that this month would be a 50 at the Federal Reserve raise of interest rates to battle inflation. It looked very much like another month of 50. But now, in 24 hours, we've had two Fed presidents say, at 25 is what I would support. I wouldn't support 50 anymore. So 75 is clearly out of the cards, no longer on the table. And now it looks like 50 may be falling out of favor. And I'm not talking about stock traders telling you that or analysts telling you that. I'm talking about Fed governors. Some of the Fed governors vote on this and some are not voting Fed governors. And I can't really do that type of analysis with you because it's too in-depth. But here's part of the issue, is that the Philadelphia Fed head tonight says, no, a 25 is more warranted. And then Susan Collins, who's the Boston Fed president, said yesterday before the CPI was released, and she should clearly say the same thing based upon the CPI report, said that she is leaning towards a quarter-point hike as well. We had another Fed governor before Hawker, I can't remember their name, that also said they would support 25 increase across the board. So, and then we have analysts who are basically looking at the same situation as I, and they're saying, you know what, this is looking more like a 25. Do I believe it's a 25? Yes, absolutely. I do believe it's looking more like a 25. So this is what we call a double-fisted night. 2 drinks on set? No, not that type of double-fisted. It's because we have literally 2 different packages of information to broadcast. We had all this breaking news of the CPI, and then we had the non-CPI news that came out today that impacts your wallet as well, on top of all that stimulus. American Airlines raised guidance today, and the shares gain on the news. Obviously, this is not a surprise. Travel and leisure keeps on killing it, and shares are up 3% in pre-market trading with that news. Morgan Stanley upgraded Cleveland Cliffs across the board. And the Disney was up 1.5% when they hired the former head of Nike as its new chairman. So will the mouse have nice shoes to wear now? I don't think the mouse can get shoes on those feet, can he? Mickey, your feet are so big. I mean, what size shoes are those? I don't think those shoes will fit on Mickey's feet. Do you think Mickey's shoes, yes or no, in the live chat? Too early to celebrate inflation. This was before the inflation report was released. And this was said by Andrew Patterson, a Vanguard senior economist. The main upside risk is to core inflation when it comes from the ex-shelter services component. Persistent wage growth could keep service inflation running hot in 2023. Great analysis. I like that. Recent slowing in wages from last week's non-farm payroll number, while welcome, do not suggest a broader showing of a labor market. Wow. You may be wondering, where are those unemployment numbers today? Hard to find. Maybe I'll find them by tomorrow. It's been one of those days when the CPI dominated the news cycle, and it was hard to hear anything else mentioned across the board. Jim Cramer said this before the release of the CPI. What makes tomorrow's CPI number a big deal? Simple. We're trying to see if this is the end of the period where companies raise prices with impunity. Not immunity, but impunity. I'm going to make that sentence an immunity. LA is saying tonight, today's CPI will give us an indication of whether the U.S. companies will continue to raise prices with immunity. What's immunity? Double. There's actually 2 types of immunity at issue here. First, a business that thinks that their components to make their product are going to go up will continue to raise prices until they even get confirmation of that. Last night, we had that live show on location outside, and we had a baker in the live chat. And we were talking about eggflation, where eggs were going up. The baker said, oh, those eggs keep on going up. So now in January, the baker believes that the situation is still straight up, and he would be rightful to raise his price of bread in February because there's no indication that the eggs are going down in February because he makes bread with eggs. So that is the concept of someone in the food chain continue to raise something based upon the component that they buy is still going up. What about the consumer? If the consumer thinks that, $3 bread is a steal because it's heading to $5, then they will buy the $3 bread. And then when we think the $5 bread is a steal because it's going to $5.50, then they'll buy the $5 bread. This is that sort of impunity or immunity situation. I think that it just not only passes to only the consumer, but also passes to the business owner who's trying to pivot accordingly based upon the components to run the business. It's much like, he has to hire a truck driver, and the truck drivers are asking more money to bring the food into the store. He's going to have to charge more money for the food until he realizes that someone in this food chain has broken course and is no longer the situation across the board. So what do we see in that CPI report today, and what do we see with the latest details on inflation? What we see today with the CPI report and what we see with inflation and also what we see with stimulus is that this is a very confusing economy. It's a very confusing economy. Even despite all the analysis we do, all the research we do, all the data points we look at, it was hard to predict today's inflation report. Last night, we were out on location outside and asked you what would happen to those component parts. We got all those right, but we really didn't know how much they were going in particular directions. Next month is going to be harder. No one really thought that so many Fed governors would come out before the report was released, and even after the report was released, saying 25 basis points so quickly. I'm a little surprised by that. I really am, because I thought 50 basis point was clearly in the cards. And here's why the 25 basis point tonight is confusing. It's very confusing. Why? Because we are at a 6.5% inflation rate. And the Federal Reserve wants us to get this down a lot more. They've only gone from 8 to 6.5 in a year and a half. And if suddenly you're taking your foot off the pedal and saying, we're not going to do 50 basis point anymore, we're going to do 25 basis point, well, what happens to this number? Does this number not drop from, remember, we've gone from 8 to 6.5 in, a year and a half? And that is when we were using 75 basis points. So if we suddenly drop to a 25 basis point from last month, 50, does that mean that a year from now, we're only going to be at 6.2? That's the concern. That's the concern, is that taking your foot off the pedal or pushing the gas a little bit softer, I should say, not taking off the pedal, but pushing the gas a little bit softer, how much slower is it going to take us to get the CPI down? Remember, this is one of the problems of this economy. If you solve inflation, if you take too much time to solve inflation, you're causing more harm. If you hit inflation too hard, you're causing abrupt harm to revenue growth for businesses and labor problems for employees. So this is a big balancing act tonight. If I was a Fed governor, what I would do? I would say a 50 basis point. I need this number down in the 5s. I need this inflationary number down in the 5s. I would never advocate for 25 basis point with a number that's at 6.5. After a year of 8%, 8% to 6.5 was achieved by a 75 basis point increase. We've only had 1 month, 2 months, what was it, a 50 basis point? And we did not have a meeting in the month of, we had 1 month with no meeting in recent weeks. So I wouldn't take my foot off the pedal so much. I would want this number down to a 5 and get it done. Get it done. That was the actual words of the Federal Reserve President Jay Powell. Quick and expeditious push of the pedal. Become a member. More Federal Reserve governors are speaking tomorrow. So tomorrow, this graphic shows Tuesday and Wednesday. I just found out there's more Fed governors speaking on Friday. More Fed governors are speaking on Friday. So a rally continue? Likely not. The market was up today based upon the news, not likely up tomorrow based upon absorption of the news. Remember, the way this market reacts to the news lately is it trades up on the rumor, trades up on the news, and then once it digests the news 24 hours later and realizes, oh, I made a mistake, it trades down on it. Stimulus checks for 2023 passed. Why? It's a combination of 3 years of stimulus checks. Stimulus checks are never written as a law or passed in the same year. They're passed in different years. And they continue to remain a law until the funding is run out. Stimulus check A to C, funding's still there. Stimulus check E to K, stimulus check's there, still there. The funding is still there. Stimulus check's L to Q, funding is still there. Stimulus check R, brand new. In fact, the funding is not run out. In fact, the notion of it was just explained in less than 6 months ago. And then unemployment stimulus, it ain't running out anytime soon, nor is PBD stimulus checks. These are 2023 stimulus checks for you. You deserve these. And ultimately, you're doing a great job. Get all these incredible stimulus checks. They're for you if you made less than $75,000, A to C, E to K, L to Q, and then get that business stimulus and get that unemployment stimulus and also get that children's stimulus. A lot of money and more details coming up tomorrow. Go right in this video, become a member, go right into that membership newsletter instantly. You don't have to wait for anything across the board. Thank you for making last night's, I almost called it Evenings LA. It was LA Live. At 5 o'clock, our most watched show in ages. Let's see if we can do it again tonight. Tell your friends and family to come on over to LA Live, now airing in its new time slot at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Channel 1, LALATE 1. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, keep on doing what you're doing. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcium VIP, you're doing such a great job. Stay informed, stay focused, keep on doing everything you do, and keep on pouncing, and keep it real. Stay informed, stay focused, and as always, stay of LA for more.